The fallout continues over the way a local economic development agency does business with your money. We've told you about a private citizen filing a second lawsuit against the Chattanooga Industrial Development Board, the city, and the county. In it, the IDB is accused of not being transparent in how it recommends tax breaks to attract business. The former board chairman explains how it's gotten to this point. Is the IDB in trouble?
Let me say this, it should not be, all right?
But is it?
Probably it is.
Ric Ebersole retired from the board after 23 years as its chairman. He tells us there's been a fundamental lack of data available on one particular project, the board recommendation to give public money to private developers of the Black Creek Mountain subdivision to extend a road. Ebersole says that's created confusion about how all projects are considered for tax breaks.
I think that a great deal needs to be done to educate the public on what the process needs to be in order for the taxpayers to be able to understand how their dollars are being spent. And they are being spent.
Helen Burns-Sharp, a private citizen, questioned the process and spent her own money on a lawsuit to find that out. She proved the IDB held secret meetings to talk about Black Creek Mountain and that there had been a conflict of interest in that case. But as for the more important question about the process for awarding tax breaks and what's legal?
And I think that's one thing the judge really never answered. You know, that was the lawsuit, that was the question, and he never really answered that question.
Ebersole says the IDB cannot establish its own guidelines on recommending tax breaks. He says that has to come from the city, and he says that might answer Sharp's questions. One city council member agrees.
Yeah, I would agree we need some procedures and we need some guidelines and things like that, and we ought to be about it rather than complaining about it.
Now, folks, those guidelines were promised 2 years ago when too many questions were raised about the Black Creek Mountain tax incentive. At that time, the previous city council put a moratorium on granting certain tax breaks until guidelines were established. 2 years later, those guidelines are still not in place. Another problem council is facing is filling 4 vacancies on the 7-member Chattanooga Industrial Development Board.